Victoria, British Columbia, a city known for its gardens, old-world charm, and death. On the edge of the sea lies a cemetery like no other. This is Ross Bay Cemetery, and for over a century, it's been home to more than just the dead. Established in 1872, Ross Bay Cemetery is the final resting place of over 27,000 souls. It holds the bodies of governors, pioneers, and murderers. Its graves face the harsh ocean. Once so unforgiving, waves would flood and expose the coffins beneath. But it's not just the history that draws people here. It's what people claim still walks between the tombstones. The Lady in Black. Often seen grieving in black, believed to be Isabella Ross. They say she glides between the gravestones without a sound. A woman veiled in black lace, dressed in mourning, frozen in an era long gone. Most see her from a distance, still, sorrowful, staring at a single grave as if it holds her soul. But when anyone approaches, she vanishes. Not with a scream, not in a blink, just gone, like smoke blown by a cold wind. Some believe she's Isabella Ross, the cemetery's namesake, still grieving her lost family, still walking her land long after death. Witnesses say the air turns bitterly cold when she appears. And once, a visitor claimed the lady whispered something as she faded. "He's not here. I can't find him." The Witch's Tomb, Nellie Cashman. Nellie Cashman was no witch. She healed. She fought for justice. But the dead don't always get to choose how the living remember them. Her tomb is now whispered about in dark corners, a place where candles are found melted into the soil and chalk symbols appear even after the rain. At night, strange lights dance around her grave, and a voice, never quite a whisper, never quite a moan, can be heard circling the tomb. Some say it's her spirit, protecting the cemetery. Others believe something darker, awakened by forgotten rituals. One night, a visitor saw a shadowy woman watching him from behind her headstone. She didn't move. She didn't blink. And when he turned back, she was gone. But his flashlight wouldn't turn on again. The ghostly processions. It begins with a chill, not wind but memory. Then the figures come. Victorian men in top hats, women in long dresses, a child holding a flower. They walk slowly, silently, as if following a casket no longer there. Their faces are pale. Their eyes are empty. Witnesses freeze as they pass, watching a funeral from another time, one that doesn't belong to the living. And when someone calls out or steps forward, the entire procession vanishes mid-step, like mist pulled from the earth. Psychics say it's a residual haunting, an old burial replaying again and again. But one woman swore a little girl in the procession looked directly at her and smiled. The phantom child. Somewhere between the old oak trees and the tiny tombstones, a child still plays. His laughter dances on the wind, faint but joyful, a sound that feels too alive for a place so full of death. Visitors leave toys near the cluster of 19th century children's graves. Sometimes they move. Sometimes they're found soaked, as if dunked in water. They say the child drowned nearby. A cruel accident, a panicked gasp, then silence. Now he runs between the graves, always out of reach. A small figure in fog, a blur behind a tombstone. One woman followed the laughter into the mist and found tiny, wet footprints that ended at her own shoes. The hanging judge, Sir Matthew Bailey Begbie. They called him the hanging judge, and he never flinched at a death sentence. Ruthless, cold, and perhaps Still unrepentant, Sir Matthew Begbie's grave sits in solemn silence. But those who approach it with disrespect often regret it. People report sudden illness, scratches across their skin, or waking from nightmares of falling, and a rope tightening around their neck. Some have seen a man in dark robes standing over the grave. His eyes open but empty, like sockets carved from marble. He does not move. He does not speak. But sometimes he smiles. They say his spirit still weighs souls and judges without mercy. Ross Bay Cemetery is more than a resting place. It's a reflection of forgotten sorrow, restless souls, and stories that won't stay buried. If you visit, be respectful. The dead may be watching, and if you see someone walking alone, don't follow them. Built in 1939, the Fairmont Hotel Vancouver is a crown jewel of the city, all marble, chandeliers, and velvet staircases. It once hosted the elite, Queen Elizabeth, John Travolta, Winston Churchill. But beneath the glamour lies a presence, one that doesn't appreciate being forgotten. The Lady in Red. She's been seen for decades, drifting silently on the 14th floor. A tall woman in a flowing red gown from the 1940s, heels clicking lightly down the hallway. Elegant, proud, possessive. One couple checked into her former suite, room 1423. That night, the woman woke up choking on perfume, thick and sweet, like roses gone bad. The lights flickered violently, and in the mirror, written in fog, "This was my room." Moments later, the room's vanity chair launched across the floor by itself. She doesn't like uninvited guests. The 14th floor has become a legend, so haunted it's a stop on city ghost tours. One group wandered down the corridor, nervously laughing, filming on their phones. One guy, chewing gum, flicked it casually into a potted plant. A moment later, they heard it. A low, cold voice, just behind him. "This is yours." He turned and gasped, choking violently. The gum was now lodged deep in his throat as if shoved back by invisible fingers. He collapsed. Panic, chaos, emergency services called. As paramedics wheeled him out, a whisper followed them from the hall. Don't come back unless you want to stay forever. Gastown was where Vancouver began. A wild town of sailors, saloons, and secrets. The cobblestone streets are older than the city itself, and at its heart, the famous steam clock chimes for more than just the living. Near the steam clock, late at night, some say they hear coughing beneath the grates, a dry, desperate sound, like someone sick and dying, just below the street. It's believed to be the spirit of a homeless man who froze to death decades ago, curled inside a vent for warmth. The city sealed it shut. But now, in the winter months, people feel a heatless breath at their ankles. One woman claimed she heard whispering under her feet. She knelt down to listen. She was later found screaming in the middle of Water Street, shoes gone, feet burned. She kept repeating, "He said it was warmer down there." In the alley just behind the clock, there's a tattered coat nailed to the wall, a memorial for a man named Victor, a local who used to sleep nearby. He vanished in the 80s. They say the coat was left behind, but no one remembers putting it there. Visitors report seeing a man in the coat pacing the alley. He never looks up, just mutters to himself. When someone tries to speak to him, he turns a corner and vanishes. One tourist followed him, thinking he needed help. They found the tourist hours later, huddled in a stairwell, crying, clutching a jacket that wasn't his. He kept whispering, "He gave it to me, but it's still cold." The Dominion building opened in 1910, the tallest building in the British Empire at the time. But even before it welcomed its first tenant, it claimed a life. Its architect, John S. Hellyer, fell to his death from the rooftop. Some say it was an accident. Others say something pushed him. To this day, his ghost is rumored to walk the halls, restless, unfinished. On foggy mornings, people in neighboring towers swear they've seen it. A man falling in slow motion outside their windows, arms flailing, eyes wide in terror, then gone. Inside the Dominion building, upper floor workers describe sudden pressure in the air, like someone just fell past them. And then always the sound, like a body hitting the ground. But when they check, nothing's there. On the 8th floor, there's an office no one stays in longer than 5 days. They say the walls whisper, first nonsense, then words, then your name. One woman said she heard a voice from under the desk say, Don't answer the phone. She's dead. You let her die." She didn't own a phone there. Another man said the whisper got inside his head.
"Let me wear your skin."
Let me wear your skin.
He was found curled in the corner, crying. At night, the emergency stairwell opens by itself, always at 2:13 a.m. Guards hear heavy boots running downward, floor after floor, but no one's there. One janitor chased the sound all the way down. Every landing was empty, except the last one. He found a puddle, not water, thick, red, fresh, and next to it, a barefoot print on the ceiling. Hospitals are built to heal, but sometimes something else grows inside them. Not all pain fades, not all voices go quiet. And in Victoria, British Columbia, there's a place where suffering lingers like mold in the walls, a place where nurses hear footsteps when they're alone, where security guards check rooms that should be empty, and where mirrors don't always show just your reflection. The Royal Jubilee Hospital was founded in 1890, originally a small charity hospital tucked away in Victoria. It began as a place for the poor and the dying, those no one else would treat. Early records show it hosted everything from tuberculosis outbreaks to experimental mental health treatments. Some buildings were torn down, but parts of the original foundation remain, especially under the East Pavilion and in the sealed-off wings. The older staff talk quietly about bad floors and off-limits rooms. Security footage has been erased. Power fails in just one hallway, and every so often, a patient reports hearing their own name whispered from a room down the hall, a room that isn't there anymore. In the East Wing, a cleaner named Yvonne was on her usual 2 a.m. shift. She was mopping a long, dim hallway when she saw a nurse standing at the far end. White uniform, clipboard, the old style with the cap. The hallway lights flickered, and Yvonne blinked. The nurse was gone. She thought nothing of it, until she turned to finish her work and found fresh mop tracks behind her, leading toward her, not away. She looked down. There were on the wet floor footprints. The next night she returned. This time she brought a coworker and a camera phone. The hallway seemed empty, until the reflection in a wall window showed the nurse, just behind them. But when they turned, nothing. Later that night, Yvonne fainted outside the elevator. When she woke, a nurse was standing over her, but there was no record of any night nurse on duty, and her badge read, 1919, Matron Doyle. The old psychiatric waiting room isn't used anymore. Sealed off, repurposed. But guards still patrol near it. One, named Tom, was reviewing camera footage when he saw something strange. Chairs moving ever so slightly. One magazine flipping open on its own. He went to check it. The door was locked from the outside. He opened it and stepped in. The air was warm. Too warm. One chair was sunken as if someone had just stood up. Magazines were scattered around, all opened to articles about soldiers and war. Then, breathing. Behind him, shallow, uneven, panicked. He turned. Nothing. As he left, he felt a weight press on his shoulder. Back at the station, the door camera had glitched. But the footage showed something else. Tom standing still inside for 11 minutes. Not 2, like he remembered. And in the footage, behind him in the reflection of a clock, someone was leaning toward his ear. Eyes wide. Mouth open. Breathing. Room 104 is used now for storage, but it once held terminal patients. Nurses don't like going in alone, not since a woman reported seeing herself walk out of the mirror after she turned away. A few days later, she quit. But the mirror stayed. Now, every few weeks, it fogs over, despite no heat or steam source nearby. Worse, an upside-down handprint appears, the kind you'd leave if you were crawling out. Once, a trainee went in during a fire drill to retrieve a bedsheet. She came out in tears. She said she saw her own face staring at her from behind the glass, but the eyes were black and smiling. Later, a senior nurse removed the mirror, but when it arrived at storage, there were 2 identical mirrors, and no one knows which one is real. They say hospitals save lives, but some stories say Royal Jubilee keeps the souls it couldn't save. The nurse who checks your vitals may not have a shift that night. The breath you hear beside you might not be your own, and the reflection that smiles back isn't always you. So, next time you're walking past the old East Wing, don't look too closely at the windows. You might see something inside, and it might see you too. In the heart of Vancouver's West End stands an old stone mansion, elegant, timeless, and hiding horrors beneath its foundation. Gabriola House isn't just another heritage building. Some say it's a gateway to something much older and much darker. Built in 1900 by the Dunsmuir family, the mansion was a statement of wealth, carved from Gabriola Island sandstone. Its walls seemed designed to last forever. But before it was opulent, it was cursed. The land had changed hands many times, and each owner spoke of strange dreams and sleepless nights. Long before it was a mansion, the land held a modest home, owned by a midwife. Records from the late 1800s say she helped bring babies into the world. But half of them died within days. Locals whispered that she wasn't helping birth children. She was taking them. No one knows what became of her. But when Gabriola House was built on the same land, strange sightings began. A woman's silhouette would appear in the upper window, watching. Always watching. Few people know about the sealed tunnel beneath Gabriola House. Dug during the Prohibition era, it connected the mansion to underground clubs and secret bars on Granville Street. But somewhere along the way, the tunnel stopped being about escape and became a place to hide things. During one renovation in the 80s, workers removing a collapsed wall found something chilling, Not artifacts, not old equipment, but a partial human skeleton. The body had been crushed behind the bricks, mouth open, arms raised, as if it had been walled in alive. And then they found more, not full bodies, tiny bones, fragmented skulls the size of fists, wrapped in decayed linen, stuffed in crevices like secrets too vile for daylight. Someone, or something, was using that tunnel to end lives before they even began. Before the tunnel was sealed, one of the mansion's grandest rooms, the dining hall, became the epicenter of a different kind of haunting. Staff reported strange pools of water appearing on the floor, though no pipes ran beneath it. The air was always heavy, like the breath of someone watching. One evening, a group of guests heard soft crying from the corner of the room, but there was no one there. The chandelier above began to sway, and every candle in the room extinguished at once. The crying grew louder, then cut off like a gasp. Later that night, one of the guests suffered a sudden heart attack. She was found with her hand clutched to her chest and her eyes wide open, staring toward that same corner. After that night in the 1990s, when a curious chef opened the sealed door in the basement, things began to unravel. House staff whispered that he stopped sleeping, muttering in strange tongues while preparing meals. Some claimed he would stand for hours at the second-story window, unmoving, even long after everyone else had left. One worker said he heard the chef speaking softly to the empty corner of the old dining hall, the same corner where others had once heard weeping. Eventually, the chef disappeared. His journal was found months later beneath a loose floorboard. Dozens of pages. The same sentence repeated again and again. She's still watching. Now, when restoration crews work late into the evening, they say the temperature drops suddenly near the dining room. Some feel cold scratches on their arms, and sometimes, just before they leave, a whisper from the dark, "Don't leave me alone again." Gabriola House has stood through centuries, but the ground beneath it has never been quiet, and those who try to uncover its secrets rarely walk away unchanged. The past isn't gone. It's waiting, bricked up in the walls, weeping on the floorboards, staring from the mirrors. You just have to listen, and maybe knock back. On the edge of Kamloops, British Columbia, lies a place where silence is never truly silent, where history and horror sleep side by side. Nestled on the edge of Kamloops Lake, hidden by time and silence, sits the remains of Tranquil Sanatorium, a place once meant for healing, that became something much darker. Built in 1907 to treat tuberculosis patients, it quickly grew into a self-sufficient community. It had its own farm, school, and even a fire department. But inside those walls, people died. A lot of them. It was called the White Plague. There were no real cures, only isolation. Over the decades, thousands lived and died at Tranquil, some peacefully, many not. Later, it was repurposed as a psychiatric hospital, and that's when the stories turned darker. Beneath Tranquil lies a web of underground tunnels, designed to transport patients and supplies through the brutal winters. They now serve a different purpose. Visitors report hearing footsteps that follow, whispers behind the walls, and chilling screams that seem to rise from the concrete itself. Some say a nurse in white still walks these corridors, gliding silently through the dark, disappearing just as you approach. In the old children's ward, people speak of a little girl, seen staring from the windows, crying or laughing. She never moves until you try to get close. Then she vanishes, leaving only a cold spot and a feeling you've been watched. Some say she tries to lead visitors deeper into the building, and those who follow, they report losing their way, becoming sick, or overwhelmed with grief. There's a room, isolated and sealed off. Some call it the screaming room, once used for TB patients, and later, psychiatric treatments. Electronic voice phenomena, EVPs, have captured whispers, incoherent muttering, and desperate pleas inside this space. Legend says it was the site of experimental procedures, and at night, if you're quiet enough, the screams still come. He's been seen by investigators and visitors alike, a tall, shadowy figure lingering at the end of long halls. They call him the Vanishing Man. Walk toward him, and he melts into the wall, or vanishes through doorways that don't exist anymore. Some say he was an orderly, others, a patient who never left. Either way, he's still walking. Beyond the main grounds lies the old farm, once used as therapy for recovering patients. Now, it's something else entirely. They say one patient died in a fire out here. Since then, visitors have felt overwhelming cold, witnessed strange animal behavior, and heard chains dragging through empty stalls. Some refuse to even approach the place after dark, and those who do don't stay long. Tranquil Sanatorium may have closed its doors, but its stories never stopped. These halls still whisper, still echo, still wait. Would you walk these halls alone?